Visit telemiracle.com to learn how the Kinsman Foundation is helping people every day in the wonderful province of the 306. Matthew Barnaby spent a lot of time there. I met him there. It was a great time. Barney, it looks like you're home. You survived the cruise, man. You come down, you didn't even call me, but it looks like you had a very busy schedule down here.
Yeah, survived the cruise. It was a great time with my stepkids and their boyfriends, girlfriends, families. Stayed in Florida a little bit. I actually got your message as I was leaving Florida. I stayed a couple extra days because the weather was horrible back east. The whole family, my daughter came in. They went to the Dolphins Bills game, and we're very close actually to where someone got shot. So very, very thankful that my family was okay. But back here, headed to Buffalo tomorrow for Bills, Kansas City.
Oh, I love it. Okay, well, before we delve into that in NHL talk, did you see me talking about the Anchor Bar where hot wings were invented in 1964? You got a story about that place?
You know what? I only ate there a couple times. Very good wings. There's so many great spots in Buffalo. I'm partial to Elmo's because it was close to where I was. Barbill has great ones. There's so many great places, but Anchor Bar is a staple, man. Anyone that goes there, you have to go to where the original wing was. And I heard your story about the window rolling down. Yeah, that's a tough area if you get lost. And I did that as a rookie too. I rolled up and I had my car, just bought a brand new BMW, and a cop pulled up right beside me. I had tinted windows, and he rolled the window down. He's like, "Oh, Matthew Barnaby." He's like, "You might want to get out of this area. Yeah, you don't drive down there after dark."
Gotcha. Well, let's talk about what's hot, and that is Sheldon Keefe, or maybe what's not. I guess the push is on to get him fired. Does he survive the season? What's your take on it?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. They're going to be a playoff team, and it's going to come down to the playoffs again. But yes, there's a hot seat. Are they hot? No. Is the seat hot? I would say it's mildly warm. I still think this team, doesn't have great D. Goaltending has been up and down. Martin Jones has done very well at times for this team. They're struggling right now, and it's a team that until they get to the playoffs, and if they don't have success, I don't see them lasting beyond that. And I was very surprised to see him get the extension before the season started. I wanted to see it as a prove me year, and Tree Living came in, said he is the guy that is going to lead us. Now we have to see if he really can. But I don't think it's as hot as everyone says it is. I think he has the season to prove it.
You were the first to say that Mitch Marner's got to go via trade. You still feel that way?
I just there's so many. Listen, they can't go on, even though the cap is going up with those four guys making that amount of money. Now, if you're going to trade one, you would love to be John Tavares, be your guy that you move. Now, bonus money. There's a lot of things that come in and how you're able to make that deal happen. You want to keep Mitch Marner if you can over John Tavares. Having said that, it has to make sense financially for other teams to be able to do that. So, the easiest guy, if you're able to facilitate that with a signing bonus because he has the least amount of term, is John Tavares. Now, you have to pay out a lot of money to get rid of John Tavares to get anything in return. So the guy to go would be Mitch Marner if you aren't able to get rid of John Tavares. But John Tavares would be the guy you would want to go. It's probably just the hardest to make happen.
You and I talked about this as we were cruising across the bald prairie in the middle of the night. I asked you if you wanted to ever get into personnel. Because you know it. You could do it. But I feel like you don't really want to do it. Your thoughts on that? You must get asked all the time.
You know what? And it's funny because I've talked to my wife, I've talked to my friends, and my wife's actually from Kamsack. I've told you that before. My father-in-law is from Kamsack. So I told them about that drive. We just went 2 hours straight to Arcola and then turned around 2 hours right back straight. Great conversations. I've talked about it in the past. It would have been something that I would have loved if I got into it right after playing, because I think there's a lot of learning curve, and I think I know the game. I think I know the people, and I think it's a big part of it. But at my age, where I am, it just wouldn't make sense, and it's a huge, huge commitment to where I am. I chose to get into media right away. Maybe it would have been different if at 34, 35, I stepped right into coaching or into player personnel. But certainly love doing this with you and being able to make decisions, armchair GMs, without getting fired. That's always nice.
Yeah, well, I know that you're just one of those guys that will be successful no matter what you do. And speaking of Arcola, there was a rodeo there that night, Barney. I don't mind saying, you had Andre Roy in a headlock pulling him out of the hall. I'm like, we're leaving. We're going. Oh, no, we lost him.
We had to go, right? We had to leave. And, yeah, we were trying to get Andre out. Anyone that knows Andre, he's a character. He's a beautiful human being, a great person. But when he gets going, he's tough to get out of a place. But we got him out of there.
He just didn't want to leave. You've been to rodeos. He was like a bull not wanting to leave the arena. You got to use some tricks to get him out. That's all. I don't blame the guy. Anyways, hey,
it was great people with great time, and he didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave, but it was time to leave.
They were closing the hall, Barney. Somebody, you don't have to go home. You just can't stay here. Yeah. Okay. What I'm dying to ask you about is the Calgary Flames. Because it's like they talk about the rebuild, and the media there in Calgary is pushing this rebuild and get rid of all these guys. Maybe because they have to, yet they've gone out and won 4 in a row. Do you have a take on what they're going to do?
I don't think they're going to go into a rebuild, to be honest. I think this is a team that can compete. It hasn't went the way that they've wanted in the last 2 years, ever since they traded Tkachuk and brought in Huberdeau. We know the guys and Weegar and bringing in Kadri. That just hasn't worked out the way that they wanted. I think when you look at the goaltending, you look at all the things, the expectations were set really high, and they haven't been able to match that. But I don't see Craig Conroy, and usually you do see it with a new GM coming in, putting a stamp on, and it kind of buys you a little bit more time. But I don't see Conroy making a complete overhaul. I think there's going to be some tinkering along the way, but I think he still believes that this team is underachieving and can compete. But, I think they'll look at those contracts, but I don't see it being a total overhaul in Calgary. I just don't think they can sustain it for a long period of time with how they've played in the last couple of years.
Well, but I'm not sure what you're hearing. I get the Lindholm, Hanifin trade bait things because they have not signed long-term. What I don't get is the Jacob Markstrom trade stuff. He's proven to be one of the best goalies in the NHL. If you think you can compete, you don't get rid of a guy like that.
Well, I can tell you, if he's up for sale, the Ottawa Senators will be buyers. Because if you look at a team that's dying, or the Buffalo Sabres, teams that are trying to take that next step in the next couple of years, you need a goaltender. When you find a goaltender, you hold on to that goaltender. As for the guys that won't sign long-term, Hanifin and Lindholm, those are guys you have to move. Like I go back to Jay Bouwmeester over about 15 years ago when he wasn't traded at the trade deadline, and then you lose, or you don't make the playoffs, you lose first round. Never let an asset walk for free, especially if you aren't so those guys are trade bait. I understand it. Jacob Markstrom would be on a lot of teams' high priority list. Ottawa Senators being number 1 on the list if he became available. I think Steve Staios would jump all over.
And let me ask you this. You didn't spend a lot of time in the American League, but you did spend some time in the American League. I read your book. I have got a ton of respect for Dustin Wolf and what he's done in the Apple. But that's not the NHL. Like, would you be putting your eggs in that basket if you were the Flames?
No, not at all. Not at all. Listen, I'll go back to Buffalo again. Everyone talked about Devon Levi at Northeastern being the savior. Everyone talked about UPL, how well he was in Rochester. I made the jump, and it's really, really hard. A lot of guys are really good in the minors. And I don't care if you're a goaltender, if you're a center, whatever it may be. It's a different beast when you play with the best players in the world. And the shots that you face from these guys and the power plays in Colorado and Edmonton, Toronto, the elite players can make you look silly until you prove it at the highest level. And even when you have stints and media blows it out of proportion when a guy goes on a hot streak for a month. And we can go back to the Hamburglar in Ottawa. He had a run of 20, 21 games. Awesome. Where was he playing the year after? In the American League. You have to prove it for a long period of time, or at least an extended period of time, before you're going to get my belief. If not, it's just selling false hope most of the time. Prove it in the NHL for an extended period of time, then I'll have belief. But Dustin Wolf, great job. I wish the best for him, but I'm not putting all my eggs into that basket if I'm a GM or a coach.
Thank you. Barney, we could go on, but we're out of time, so I'll just say thank you from the president of the Florida chapter of the Matthew Barnaby fan club, and enjoy the hockey.
Hey, cheers, buddy. Have a great weekend. Love you.
Love you too, pal. Matthew Barnaby checking in from the nation's capital.